NHS frontline workers who've chosen not to get the COVID vaccine are set to face the sack in April, including Dr. Steve James, whose conversation with Sajid Javid earlier this month gathered millions of views.
As I saw more and more people, a lot of people on intensive care, and I saw those numbers reduce. And so I'm for the vaccine. I've seen the benefit, but at a certain point for individuals, there becomes a balance between what you want yourself and maybe what's good for you, but your personal choices matter. For the vaccine mandate for NHS staff, it's going to quite possibly lead to up to 100,000 members of staff losing their job. These are people who've worked through the pandemic, have seen COVID, have seen the damage it can do to people, but for their own personal reasons have chosen not to have the vaccine. And they've weighed up the risk and the benefit. They're conscious of the impact it might have on their patients, but they've still chosen that it's not the right thing for them. So if the government chooses to go ahead with this, 100,000 people are going to lose their job. That's going to be a huge hole in the ability of the NHS to deliver care, and I'm really worried about that.
Doctors, MPs and supporters came together for a campaign against COVID passports, restrictions and mandates, and arrived in Downing Street to hand in 360,000 signatures and to call for an end to restrictions.
Let's all do this together, have our voices heard. Thank you very much.
I've been speaking to countless numbers of NHS workers and frontline staff. We've got doctors here today as well that are saying, look, we can't do this. This is wrong. This is a wrong move of the government. The NHS is already under huge pressure. We're talking about tax hikes in April to cover the cost of the care that NHS with a backlog because of the pandemic. And now we're talking about sacking them. That's completely wrong, and in my opinion, it's just disproportionate.
I think what the government is planning on mandatory vaccinations is a very dangerous precedent. It breaks the cornerstone of medical ethics, which is informed consent, bodily autonomy. And as a doctor who's been consenting for decades, I'm actually aghast that they're contemplating such a move. This is the kind of behaviour that I would expect from a totalitarian and authoritarian state, maybe communist China, not liberal democracy, the beacon in the West, the United Kingdom. And I'm just protesting because I think this is wrong.
But it wasn't enough to defeat the government. Labour keep voting.
Steve Baker, Deputy Chair of the COVID Recovery Group, says that Conservative MPs would like the restrictions to end. Government ministers have indicated that some COVID restrictions in England, including COVID passes for large gatherings, could be scrapped.
Now is the time to get on and live our lives and get back to the joy of relationship with our families, which incredibly was taken away.
And how much support is there to kind of stop the measures from continuing within the Conservative Party?
Well, I think Conservative MPs overwhelmingly would like these measures to end. We saw the size of the rebellion on COVID status certification, and I think that was really the last time they'll be able to ask for a measure like that. Many members of Parliament voted with the government with great misgivings, and so I hope we'll now move on.
Supporting from this side is former actor Lawrence Fox.
The point here is we've not had a conversation about natural immunity. The whole thing has been focused about vaccines. It's not been focused on treatment or anything like that. It's all about vaccine. And we're now starting to see, how effective the vaccine is. We've got the God variant in Omicron, and we're there. It's done. It's finished.
And likely reflecting many parents' views is broadcaster Tonya Buxton.
I was very disappointed by the media coverage, and I continue to be disappointed, apart from a few outlets like Talk Radio, GB News, other places, and your station, of course, who are reporting the truth. Everybody else is just wiping it under the carpet. I got approached by women whose children committed suicide during the first lockdown. Can't even talk about it without getting upset. And none of the mainstream media would talk about them. These mothers wanted closure. They wanted to talk about the fact that their children were so lost during these lockdowns that they killed themselves, and no one would let them talk about it. So that was one of the main drivers for me to get involved and say, why? Why are we not allowed to speak up?
Jane Worrell, NTD News, London.